Is history repeating itself? Here to put in perspective, Scott Shutledy, the cow guy, as we like to affectionately call him, over at AG Optimist. Dave Maney, Deep News chairman. Dave, what do you make of what's rattling Wall Street right now? Any of this? Concerns that the government's going to step in to deal with this? Both? What?
New sources of uncertainty, Neil. I think that it's almost like a source of seismic shaking from a quadrant and a force, in effect, that the street wasn't looking for and didn't expect. So it's not like a black swan, it's like an invisible swan that shows up. And suddenly everybody who has a worldview is forced to say, I wasn't anticipating this. In fact, it wasn't in my factors anywhere. Therefore, what does it mean to me? And that kind of reassessment of risk is what can move markets and shake foundations of markets.
Maybe it just it has a touch of Ronald Reagan here, Scott Shutledy, that maybe that's what's rattling the markets when he famously said in his inaugural address, the scariest words are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And with the best of intentions, regulators looking at this frothiness, craziness, however you want to describe it, figure they'd be the better arbiter to come in and calm things down. Oftentimes, history shows they can make things worse. But what do you say?
Yeah, it's just the retail investor who's traditionally been afforded some protections that say the institutions have not been afforded, right? And that's really where the tug of war is here. Do you just want to say, have at it? Nobody's got any protections. Just don't lie. We'll see who the best man wins. I mean, that's really where we're going with this. And on top of that, what's this, how is this going to go on in the future? I mean, part of me feels like I'm in a cafeteria watching a guy eat a bowl of soup that I know is poisoned, and I'm trying to tell him not to eat it, and everybody in the cafeteria is telling me to shut up, he's hungry, right? That's the retail investor. There's some dangers out there that they may not know, right? They may not know, and they need some protection, but at the same time, they want to fight with the big boys. So if you want to take on the big boys, and the big boys should have been taken on here. We don't really talk enough about how ridiculous some of those short positions were, and they deserve to be spanked, and I would argue that the market did its job that way. But going forward is what everybody's worried about. And like the other guest said, this doesn't lend a lot of confidence in the market going forward. And if you have a reason to get out, you're going to use this as one, and then maybe we reset later. But right now, we're seeing a seismic shift in how investors are going to behave. And you're going to see more. We talked about herd immunity all last year. Maybe we're going to talk about, herd community this year.
That's a very interesting point, Dave. Another thing that I think there's something weirder going on here, and if you'll just indulge me, I call it the Tesla effect. A lot of people said, gosh, I should have gotten into Tesla when it hit 50, then 75, then 100, and 200. I didn't, and now got to $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 a share. It was closing on $1,000 a share. I missed it. I'm not going to let that happen again. And then little cases like this could pop up where there's a whole new cottage industry evolving where you have all these potential Teslas undervalued, shorted to hell, and a lot of people say, I'm not too late to the Tesla party. So in fact, it's feeding the froth. What do you think?
Oh, I think absolutely. There's interesting coverage in the Wall Street Journal today of some of the original sort of thinkers behind this GameStop thing, and they're clearly very intelligent investors in their own right. And so now it makes you wonder, does everyone then start looking for new kind of, soothsayers to follow kind of in the amateur world and try to find what's the next GameStop, which all leads to a very speculative froth. And then the really troubling thing to me beneath all of this is this notion that we're building societal institutions on the top of these digital platforms and living life on these digital platforms, and then finding that they can yank that rug out very quickly, which, to your original question, adds this whole other layer of destabilization. And so it's a pretty toxic brew that is reminiscent in a different way to me of 2008.
What is different, too, very, very quickly, Scott, here is, we're scrutinizing these message boards and others on, people who are justifying stocks that were shorted that they should be a lot richer. We tend not to apply the same standard to go after those who've shorted a stock or undermined a stock at a company. They're not being as scrutinized. That's what raises the issue, is the little guy getting burnt here. What do you think?
I don't like stopping the markets from trading. Less manipulation that way, or less intervening that way. I'm for just letting it get on with it, and may the best man win. So when we don't apply those regulatory rules the same across the board, I think that that's a bad thing. So look, these communities of traders that are getting together to do whatever they're doing, that's not going to go away. We have to learn how to deal with that, and maybe that's the next big question. And you know what? Taking these groups off of message boards is also a bad thing. You're starting to see these, Robinhood groups that are getting kicked off of Facebook now. I mean, where is this going to end? Are they going to start, looking at your email? I mean, I could go on and on and on. So, yeah, we have to apply the rules across the board equally, and I think that we should just let the best man win.
All right, it's buyer, seller, beware. You know what you're doing, get into it and do it. It can work out for you if you've done your homework. It might not if you haven't. We'll see what happens. Scott, Dave, thank you both very, very much.